Hi, everyone. Folks are coming in, so let's give it a couple seconds. As y'all are coming in, you should see the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, underneath where you see Brittany and I talking. Feel free to put in any questions in there. I will let y'all know that we got a lot of questions ahead of time. So we're going to start working through some of those. So your answer, or I'm sorry, your question might be answered, but still go ahead and put in the Q&A box just so we make sure that we get to it. We have 52 people in here. Brittany, I am going to turn it over to you to go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Well, I'll just start off introducing myself and telling a little bit about my story. So I'm Brittany Tillman. I live in Central Florida, and I work in for Hanover Re, which is a reinsurer based in Orlando. And I've worked with them for about 5 years now. But prior to that, I graduated from a very small private college just right here in Central Florida with a math ed degree. Never heard of an actuary, still hadn't heard of an actuary, had no idea what I was going to do. I just liked math classes. So I was like, well, I guess I can teach. So I did 1 year of high school, decided that was enough of that, and went back to grad school in math so that I was able to teach college. That was honestly my long-term goal in the long run anyways. So then I went back to the school I graduated from and taught college there for 5 years. And I guess around that time, it was kind of, I only had done the master's degree. There was kind of a little bit of pressure of like, hey, if you're going to stay here, you should probably go back and get your PhD. I looked into several programs, and honestly, like, theoretical math was just not very interesting to me. I really didn't enjoy it when I was doing my master's either. It was just a means to an end so that I could teach. A lot of the programs were not very conducive at that time. I think COVID changed a lot of this, but at that time, they weren't very conducive to being able to work on a program and have a full-time job. Several of the people that I talked to said I'd have to quit my job if I wanted to be a PhD student, which I didn't want to do. So just several roadblocks that ran into that. And then kind of in the back of my mind at that time, I had been looking into actuarial things. I had already taken the first exam and passed that. And it was starting to be interesting to me. So in the back of my head, I was like, well, maybe I'll try this route instead since the PhD thing isn't working out. So I worked on that for a few years. I took the second exam. Again, while I was still teaching, I was just doing it over summers. And then started kind of looking for jobs. I had been told by people that you really needed 2 exams if you're a career changer. I don't know. I think it kind of depends on the situation, but it was solid advice. I think if you're a career changer and you don't have a lot of experience or background in actuarial, I think having 2 exams under your belt is helpful. So I started kind of looking around for jobs just online. I think the SOA has somewhere on their site, Brianna can probably say better, like a list of people who are currently actuaries. So I think I just researched ones that were close by to me in Central Florida, Tampa, Orlando, things of that nature. Emailed several of them to see if any of them had positions or internships or anything like that, or even would just be willing to meet with me to ask so I could ask questions. There was one in Tampa that I met with a few times just to ask questions. Nothing really came out of that, but I tried. And then I went to a couple of the SOA conferences. They do them, I think it's annually. And Brianna, maybe you can say if they still do this, but at the time they did what's called Candidate Connect. So the nice thing for that is if you're not actually an actuary or you're just like wanting to get into the field, it's way cheaper. I think it's only at the time, again, it was only like $25 or something to attend just one day of the conference. And the conference, they set up everything for you in terms of picking out which sessions you should go to. And honestly, the whole time I was there, I just networked like crazy, talking to everybody. People are very helpful, is what I found, especially when they heard that I wasn't an actuary but was interested in becoming one. I had several people that would be like, oh, well, let me go talk to my friend over here and see if they need anybody. So it was a lot of just like word of mouth of people talking to their people that they know at the conference and getting emails. And from that is actually how I ended up getting into Hanover, because somebody I talked to knew someone who worked at Hanover and sent my contact information to them. And it just worked out from there. We started chatting, had some interviews, it went well. That was 5 years ago, and I've been very happy with them ever since. So
Amazing. Thank you so much for all of that. And Brittany, as you were talking, I dropped some links in the chat. So the first link in there is the actuarial directory, which Brittany was referring to. And then we have the link to all of our upcoming Candidate Connect events. We do at least 3 of those a year in conjunction with each major meeting, but we often do different ones, different or around both the United States and Canada. More information about the ones that are one-offs, not connected to a meeting, that info will be out probably a month ahead of time. So just check out our socials and everything. And then the last thing on there is access to the sign up to our affiliate membership. That's a completely free program. I could talk for an hour about that in and of itself, but feel free to go on there, search around. There's a lot of great resources on there. All right, I see we have questions coming in. I haven't even opened them yet. Brittany, I'm gonna refer to some of the ones I sent you earlier. You covered a lot of this already, so some of this you might be repeating things, but I'm just gonna ask them anyways. So was there something specific that landed you a career changing over to actuarial science? So why did you choose actuarial science to switch to
uh,
specifically?
yeah, like I said, even when I was in grad school, I didn't really enjoy theoretical math very much. It just was not interesting to me. I think the final kicker, I was talking to one of my professors that I was helping with his research, and I was asking him, so what's the point of this research? Like, if we prove this theorem, then what happens? And he was just kind of like, he didn't say it like this, but basically it was like, I don't know, like we just have to prove the theorem and then hopefully it'll be useful. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I kind of want my work to be a little more useful right now. Like,
I was
I
gonna
don't
say
know.
immediately that instant gratification, which is completely fine. I am not a theory person either, so I completely get it.
Yeah, so I think I was looking in general for something that was a little more applicable, a little more real world, and actuary seemed attainable to me in the sense of it didn't require me going back to do more schooling. I just needed, to pass some exams, and I could do that on my own. I could still work my other job, so I just liked the path that it had. I liked that, so I kind of went that route.
Awesome, thank you. So sort of on that track, considering you have a degree that isn't, actuarial science, this person, so this is a specific question, but I'm gonna try to make it more general. So you obviously took courses in college and in grad school that were not necessarily applicable directly to actuarial science. How did you show the classes that you took that were part of like your education degree or another degree that were relevant to actuarial science, but not part of an actuarial science program? Does that make sense?
As in, like on a resume, how would you?
Yes. Or like in a job interview.
I don't think you necessarily have to lay out every course that you took. I think, especially if you just name your degree, I mean, for the most part, people will know. Like, if I have a math degree, they know I had a probability class, they know I had a stats class, they know I had calculus, things like that. And it's probably similar no matter what your degree is. We'll have a general idea of what classes you took just based on what your degree name is. So I don't think you need to lay out all the classes you took. If I know, I think I read one of the emails, someone said they took a couple one-off courses that didn't lead to a degree. Again, I don't know if it's super important to have it on your resume. If you have some space and want to throw it at the bottom, sure, but it may just be one of those things. Maybe you just bring it up in an interview if it were to come up, something like that. But I don't think it's super important to necessarily lay out every course that you took. Honestly, having exams passed says way more than what courses you took in college.
And I would affirm that as well to everyone. I know we got a lot of questions from folks about like, should I start taking exams before going back for another degree? Should I get a new degree? So I think the general advice, and please, Brittany, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also from what I've heard as well. You don't need to get another degree. You can,
No.
especially if you have an aptitude for math, you're able to self-teach the exams. We have past exams on the SOA website that you can access, and I will grab that link when I'm done talking, and drop that in there so folks can access it. And there are also a lot of really great like Coaching Actuaries, and I'll drop that link in. And I feel like you may have used Coaching Actuaries if you're nodding your head. So if you want to talk about your experience with the Coaching Actuaries and those outside helps as you were not pursuing an actuarial science degree while you were taking exams, and I'm going to find those links and drop them while you're talking.
Okay. Yeah, I personally use Coaching Actuaries for all of my exams. Love it. It's set up, really well, easy to navigate. The lessons are laid out. They kind of sift through all the SOA resources and organize it for you and put it into lessons and have videos. And then there's also discussion boards almost on every single page, which is really helpful, especially for those of us who didn't have personal contacts or people we could ask questions to. There's discussion boards on, like I said, every question, every video where you could ask questions. A lot of times I found I didn't need to ask questions because you could just go through and read the discussion board, and usually whatever I was wondering had already been addressed somewhere. So again, just reading all that is really helpful. And then one of the best parts of their program, they have what's called Adapt, is like a test prep, and they do earned levels. So it kind of helps they recommend that you get to like an earned level of 7, and you just get that by continually passing harder and harder practice exams. And then it just kind of helps you feel secure of like, I'm ready for this test. And honestly, like if you get to a level 7, if you get to that level when you go in and take the real test, it seems like a level 7 practice test is a little harder than the actual real test. So it kind of, gives you some confidence of like, oh, I can do this when you walk in, which to me, confidence is a big part when you're walking into those exams. You want to feel over prepared, I think, rather than under.
I would give the same advice, and I've never taken an actuarial exam myself. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna get over to some of these questions in the Q&A box. Brittany, you should be able to read them as well. You've already touched on some of these, and some of these questions are very similar. So folks, if you don't hear your exact question asked, and we didn't touch on something you were trying to get at, please put that back in the Q&A box so we can make sure we get to it. So we'll start with the first one here from Aaron. After passing your first 2 preliminary exams, what skills would you recommend a career changer develop to increase entry-level role possibility?
Skills. I think, and again, I can only speak from Hanover's perspective since that's the only company that I personally have worked for and actually have helped in the past with various interviews. So I know they've kind of coached us on things that they find or that they value, whatever, value in candidates is good communication skills, good soft skills. So obviously, but hopefully if you've already worked another job, maybe you've already been through like interview processes and things like that. So I would just, work on making sure your interview skills are refined, that you're able to communicate. I know a lot of times too, we like to ask questions to see how well you're able to communicate technical information. So, and that's where a lot of times we may look into a project you've specifically worked on in your field. It may have nothing to do with actuarial and be like, explain it to me, tell me what you did. And honestly, we're just interested in how well can you take technical information and make it understandable to us that don't know anything about it, because that's a good skill to have.
Thank you. And there's a question I just read that was similar to this, and now I lost it. Okay, how would you weigh taking exams versus learning technical skills such as SQL and Excel? This person is 3 exams in and studying for the 4th. They're also transitioning from being a high school math teacher.
If you're 3 exams in and you haven't already started looking for jobs, I definitely would start. Especially a lot of employers will pay for your exams and all your materials and things of that nature. So you're plenty qualified if you have 3 exams. And if it were me personally, I wouldn't keep paying for everything out of my pocket if I could go ahead and get a job. So, and then the technical skills, I think just as long as you're honest with whoever you're interviewing with, because my technical skills were next to none when I started. And I told them that was honestly a concern I had of trying to switch jobs. I basically had only used Excel for entering grades, and that's it. And I didn't even create my own grade sheet. I just used like templates that people gave me. So it was very bad. So my company actually, obviously when I communicated all that to them, they had me sign up for through the Infinite Actuary there's like a technical skills course that you can take that gives you kind of that overview of Excel. I forget what else is on there, are things of that nature. But yeah, I think I would, if you have to, first I would focus on getting exams passed. Then once you have at least two, I'd just go ahead and start looking for jobs. If you have some time and want to work on some technical skills, that's definitely a bonus. Definitely something you could also put on your resume. Because a big thing I think for career changers too is, we want to see that you're serious and that you've taken steps, that you're committed to moving yourself into the actuarial field, and that it's not just a whim of like, hey, I heard actuary is a good job, let me try this. You know what I mean? Like, we want to see that you're taking steps. So if you've shown initiative of like, I'm taking exams, I'm doing these technical skills course, that's all good stuff that shows us like this guy's or this girl or whoever is serious, and they really want to do this. So that's like what things we want to see.
Thank you. Okay, a lot of questions, and I won't be offended however you decide to answer this because you are an SOA actuary. But questions about choosing SOA versus CAS, as well as in folks who've taken the first two exams, they haven't chosen if they want to do SOA or CAS yet. Do you have any advice about that?
Yeah, I think, and what's funny is way back at the time, the advice that I was given, and honestly, it's the same advice I would give, is unless you have a super strong preference, go with whoever gives you an opportunity. So I know for me personally, when I started researching, and again, things have changed since COVID, that a lot more places are willing to do remote work. But at the time, when I was doing this, it wasn't. So I started looking in, the Tampa, Orlando area, and I don't think there was any, if so, very little CAS opportunities around me. It was all SOA. So for me, that's why I was like, okay, I guess I should go SOA because that's what's around me. Um, like I said, now that's probably a little bit different since remote work is a little more prevalent. But yeah, I would say unless you feel strongly one way or the other, just start applying at both and wherever you get an opportunity, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, this is on the questions of internships, and I'll just say myself as someone who has been looking into creating materials for career changers, the internship thing is a piece that I wasn't familiar with. That a lot of hiring companies are looking for that internship experience. So the question is, how likely is it a career changer will be able to avoid an internship and jump right into an entry-level role? But I would expand that and ask if you had an internship experience or if you didn't, and what your experience with that was like.
So I personally didn't, and that's actually a little bit of a funny story because when I was first contacting Hanover, I actually was asking because same thing, it was told to me that I needed an internship. So I was actually asking if I could apply for the internship, and somewhere within our communications, my contact I was speaking with, she goes, I'm confused. Are you applying for an internship or are you applying for an entry level job? And so I just kind of asked her, I was like, can I apply for an entry level job? Because that would be ideal. I just thought I had to get an internship. And she was like, oh, no, not at all. So, and again, that may be company preference, but I think at least her opinion of me, since I did have experience in another field and had passed two exams and things like that, in her eyes, I was able to just go straight into an entry level job. Again, that might be company specific, but it's obviously doable that you can just skip the internship.
And again, folks, as I mentioned, we are currently working on materials for career changers. This session is one of many. And as I see, we have 73 people in here right now. This is a popular topic. We're going to keep doing programming on it. So keep an eye out, folks. Okay, you sort of answered these, but I have two questions that are sort of similar. So can a career changer expect to get a job from basically any background as long as they've passed one or two exams? And then sort of on top of that, this person had a biology major. They took two exams, but they're having trouble finding a job. They're wondering if they should go back for another degree.
Again, I wouldn't let me go in order. Number one, I would say as long as you can pass exams, I don't think it's a big deal what your background is or what your degree is. Again, if you're passing exams, then you're showing that you have aptitude to be able to do the work, and that's what's most important. And then for the second person, again, I don't think degree is super important again, in my opinion, obviously companies all have and hiring people all have different opinions, but in my opinion, I don't think your degree is as important as passing the exams. And if you're still having trouble, then like I said, maybe taking some of those extra steps to go to some conferences, maybe do some technical skills, just try to do some extra stuff that you can put on your resume to try to strengthen it up a little bit. There's also, I guess I was going to say, I don't know if having VEEs already done is a benefit or not, but you could also, there's things called VEEs that you have to do. I will say most companies don't pay for those, and you will have to do those on your own, especially if you, so what those are credits that you, if you had gone through an actuarial science program in college, you would have gotten them automatically. But for those of us who did not, we have to do them ourselves. And they're not too bad. Definitely not compared to actual actuary exams. They're a lot easier, but it's just another, box you got to check. So you could start working on those if you wanted to just have things that you could put on your resume to show like, look, I am aware of all these requirements of me. I am doing them. I am pursuing them. And so you should consider me.
Thank you. And I dropped the link to the VEEs because I wouldn't say a lot of times, but it's possible that classes that you took, because even AP classes, a few AP classes count. So if you took those AP classes are like because they're economics, accounting and finance and mathematical statistics. So if y'all took, math classes in college, it's likely that you already have these. So the directory will show the accepted class courses and from different colleges in the US and in the world, because obviously we're a global organization. Okay, we've got a couple questions. How long did it take you to complete your ASA?
Since working at Hanover or since I started?
Let's say since you started.
Okay, then maybe 7 years then maybe, because I've been at Hanover for 5 years. I just got my ASA this past March. So that was maybe like 4-ish years. And I think it was very spread out, obviously, that I was taking the first 2 exams. So I'd say maybe 2 years. I think I did it over 2 summers. So about 7 years, but you could do it shorter than that if you, like I said, I spread out my first 2 exams since I was doing other careers at that time.
And then there was a question that is similar. I'm trying to find it. Okay, can't find. Oh, here it is. What challenges do you foresee as a person with a young family, 2 small kids, juggling, studying, and work?
I can very much speak to this right now because I have a 1.5-year-old and another one on the way. I'm actually 6 months pregnant right now. So I will say it is definitely challenging. I don't know if I have an answer for you just yet because I also have not quite figured that out all the way. I have taken a break from taking exams. I'm just working on, we have these other things we have to do called modules that are way less demanding than exams because you kind of just do them on your own time. And you can do them from your house. You don't have to go to a testing center or anything like that. So I've just been working on modules just to kind of give me some time to get my feet together. So I will definitely say it's challenging, but I will also say it is doable. There's actually, and I've been talking to several people at my company who have young kids and have just recently hit their FSA and asking them, how they do it. And they all say the same thing, that it is extremely hard. And it does unfortunately take some sacrifices on both the family side. You need to have good family support, like your spouse, being okay with you doing this and being okay with some weekends you may have to step out to go, do things, but that, people do it. So I guess it's possible, but yeah, I feel you there because I'm in the same boat.
Thank you. And also congratulations. What the heck?
Thank you.
Okay, we've gotten also a couple questions. What a typical day looks like for you as an actuary.
That is a good question because typical is hard to describe. Well, I guess another thing too is it really depends. So at our company, up until you have your FSA, you're part of a rotational program that we actually change our job every 18 to 24 months. So I'm currently in my 3rd rotation at this company. So again, typical very heavily depends on which department you're in, because of the 3 departments I've worked in so far, all the job functions are completely different. My current role, I guess I'll speak on that. My current role, I'm an evaluation role, which just means that basically we are monitoring business that has already been written and is already in existence, and it has a lot of financials. So, insurance itself is highly regulated. So there's a lot of reports that have to be submitted, to all the various regulators, just to make sure that we are able to back all the liabilities we say we can, and that we're not going to go, I guess you could think of it as bankrupt. In insurance, they call it insolvent, and things of that nature. So there's a lot of reporting and calculating that has to be done, basically, that just shows that we're good. We can cover the liabilities that we said we will cover. And so that's what I'm currently working in. So for this particular role, it's very cyclical, that we have kind of the same process that has to be done each quarter in terms of like the types of reporting duties that we have to generate. So like right now, we are just kicking off. Q1 reporting is really rolling right now. So I'm kind of in the middle of doing a lot of those tasks that have to be done for just our quarterly reporting. There are some periods in between where it slows down a little bit, like that all gets submitted, and then that's when we have time to work on side projects that we may be doing. And again, that's very specific onto what projects you're into, but and things of that. So, but I will say, even though it's like, even in the quarterly jobs I've been in, it still changes like from quarter to quarter, just as regulations change, the business changes, new business gets added, other business will get what they call recaptured, meaning it just goes back to the regular insurer. And again, I'm speaking from a reinsurer because that's what we work in. Goes back to the insurers, so then that business basically disappears off our book. So there's always things changing, there's always regulations changing. So even though the overarching process you're doing every quarter is the same, it's still different every quarter. So a lot of it is also just figuring out, okay, how did this change? What do I have to do different this go around, and things like that. But yeah, it's a lot of meeting with people to ask questions when I can't figure things out, and or when things don't make sense. And I guess that's the other thing too. I think probably depends on which role you're in, but there is a lot of communication with other people. I know sometimes, I have the perception that you just sit at your desk by yourself and don't talk to people. At least, like I said, in our company, that is not the case. Sometimes I wish I had a few less meetings, would be nice.
Okay. So I have a couple of random questions. I'm going to try to spitfire because they're kind of fast. Is being an actuary a high stress job?
Not for me. I think it kind of depends on what level you're on, but where I'm at, I'm good.
So there was a question about your first day. So as you mentioned that you're on your third rotation, what does each of your first days look like when you're in that new space? And what type of work should someone expect as an entry-level actuary? So maybe someone's just starting out in those first few weeks.
Mm-hmm. So when I first started at the company, they were very strategic in placing me in a department that was very like overarching of the whole department, because they wanted me to get a feel for like what all does our company work in general. And also at the same time, it's a lot of even just figuring out what the heck does an actuary do, because you hear all these things, but it really doesn't click or make sense until you're actually in the business and seeing everything right in front of your face. A lot of it, as I'm sure you may know, every career has its jargon, so a lot of it too is even just learning the language. I remember within my first week, the guy that was training me, like we were like walking through the hallway and randomly stopped, and he was talking to this one guy, and I swear to you, like they were speaking English and I did not understand a single word that they said. I was just like, I have no idea what we're talking about right now. And I think like I said, the guy that was training me, as we walked away, saw that hit and kind of looks at me, he goes, you have no idea what we just said, do you? And I was like, nope. So a lot of it is, just getting familiar with the language, how actuaries talk, what they mean when they say, there's a lot of acronyms, so what they mean when they say all these acronyms, things of that nature. And I like I said, people know when you're coming on for the first time that you're just trying to figure out, what does an actuary do, what does our company do, and go from there. So and then once you get into like later rotations, obviously the more rotations you have, the longer you've been in the business, then they expect you don't need quite as much background knowledge on that, but you still need time to adjust to your particular role. So like I said, at least my company is really good about, they give you a couple week of just figuring it out, periods of lots of meetings of just to educate you on whatever you're trying to do, things of that, like that. So
thank you. Okay, we have a couple questions, and you already mentioned networking events, like the Candidate Connect events, and I know some Zoom doesn't let people see chats posted up before they come in, so I'm going to repost some links. But so two-pronged question. What were there other types of networking events that you attended while looking for a job? And then do you have any advice about networking remotely for people living in more rural areas?
Mm. Personally, the only networking events I went to were the SOA ones, and that's just because those were the ones I knew about. So I would just recommend, Google and research and see. I mean, I'm not to say that there's not more stuff out there. It was just the things that I knew about, and the ones in particular at that time were being held close to me. Like I think one was down in Miami, and the other one was, I don't know. It wasn't that far for me to get there, basically. So that's why I picked them. In terms of remote networking, again, that is something new. Like when I was doing this was pre-COVID, and that wasn't really much of a thing. But that's not to say that it doesn't exist now. Again, I know the SOA. I get emails all the time from the SOA about various remote networking opportunities. So again, I do think they exist. I don't know of them off the top of my head, but I think if you were to just Google and look around, that you would see some stuff out there.
And I'll also say, since the pandemic, we are now holding virtual versions of each of our major meetings. So, and I know that there are networking opportunities. They've experimented with like people creating avatars and going into like little rooms to like literally network. I don't understand. I've never done that, of course. I don't know how that works, but there are networking breaks built into those virtual events as well. And that info, if you go on the SY website, it's just under the professional development and networking. There's a whole tab on our main menu that you can look at all the different things that we offer.
I would say too on the virtual stuff, what's probably a major difference than when I went in person. You probably are going to have to work a little bit harder. I think probably to try to meet people, get people's attention, talk to people about what you're trying to do. I would imagine. I'm just guessing because obviously when you're in person, it's natural that you're, communicating about, oh, what do you do, and then it just kind of comes up. If when versus when you're remote, sometimes you may have to put in a little extra effort. You may have to like reach out, email people. Just again, be persistent. You may not hear back from everybody, but I'm sure you'll hear back from somebody, kind of thing. You just got to find the right person at the right time. It may even be a thing of like maybe it was just bad timing that you contacted somebody and they were really busy, but so just I think that's the biggest thing is just be persistent, and hopefully something will work out at some point.
And I'll also say, I keep mentioning the affiliate membership, and I just dropped that link in there. For folks who are not affiliate members, one of the benefits of that we offer is called MentorLink, and you can sign up for either a one-on-one, or it's one-on-one, but like a 30-minute flash session, or a longer, like 6-month sustained relationship with practicing actuaries. And those are actuaries who have indicated that they're interested in hearing from people. So it's not really cold emailing. You're matched with someone, and you can say like the kind of field you're looking for, or some like, someone of a specific gender or other identity. You can request those things, and you can be matched with someone to talk with as well. Okay, I'm trying to figure out. I'm just going to read down now, and if we get to multiple things, we get to multiple things. But thank you all so much. Keep putting these questions in. We've answered 22 already, so we're getting there. We still have 25 minutes left. Okay, how important is finance knowledge for being an actuary? This person currently works as an operations analyst for an investment firm, but a lot of their work has been more data processing and entry. They have Excel experience with formulas and pivot tables.
I think initially getting started, it's not super important to have a heavy financial background. I certainly didn't. Coming, from a math background, that was actually one of the areas I was like, "Ooh, I don't know anything about this." But there's exams. FM has some finance to it. One of the VEs you do accounting has accounting and finance. So as you work your way through the exams, you'll learn the finance knowledge that you need. But I don't think it's super important that you know it before you start. Again, if your particular position requires some bit of financial knowledge, you can learn it on the go from your manager and from your job for the most part.
Okay, thank you. Um, Okay, I've seen a couple of questions. We've caught this one, but Brittany, I'm wondering if folks weren't in here when you talked about it. So this, again, specific question is, what advice do you have for someone who has experience in technical skills, but hasn't passed exams yet and is looking to re-enter the actuarial career from a different country?
So I take it that means maybe actuarial experience in a different country. Is that the way you're reading that?
Yes.
Well, if you have actuarial experience in a different country, I think that's definitely it definitely gives you some something to stand on for sure. I think obviously you probably just have to communicate that. I'm not entirely sure, honestly, how you would put that on a resume, just because I haven't personally seen any of that. But I know we have a couple of people that have come to us from. I know we have some people from South Africa, a guy from Ireland, and actually one of the girls I used to work with was in South Africa, and this may be your personal experience too. She already had some exams, if not all of them, in her country, but they don't transfer to here, so she's having to redo them. But we went ahead and hired her anyway. So I'm sorry that I personally don't have a lot of knowledge about what that process is like. But again, I think if you're just open and make sure, somehow communicate that on your resume that you've got this actuarial experience, I mean, that says a lot for sure, even if you don't have any exams passed yet.
Thank you. And folks, as I'm reading through these, Brittany has expressed, I don't know if she said it, but she's willing to share her email address. So if anyone has more personal questions, because some of these, again, I want to answer all of them, but I want to make sure that we're asking the general questions so that we can get those answered. So folks if we don't get to your answer or your question, Brittany will share her email information and you can reach out to her or reach out to me and I can send you that as well. Okay. So let me see. Do you know anyone who's transitioned from being a life insurance internal wholesaler to being an actuary?
I don't, mainly because I don't even know what that career is. So I don't, but again, not to say that you can't do it. Again, a huge uh, entry point is just passing an exam. So whatever you did before, if you just go take at least one or two of those exams, I think you're pretty well welcomed into the actuarial community after that.
So on that, are there experienced professional jobs in your industry that allow someone to work with actuaries while they're working on passing their first two exams?
Yeah, I think if you're just trying to get a job at an insurance company, I know that was something. I think I spoke to a recruiter one time when I was trying to figure out how to make this move too, and they recommended me maybe potentially applying for jobs as an underwriter at an insurance company. So I know that's one in particular, but yeah, anything at an insurance company that I think if you look into it, you'll see that there's a lot of interactions, such as underwriters. I know I work at my company with financial analysts a lot, or accounting people. Like we work a lot with all of those types of people as well. That you could probably step into something like that and also work on actuarial exams.
And I like, as you said that, someone did ask specifically about getting an underwriter job. So I said we answered that one.
That was recommended to me. I just found an actuarial job before I got there, but
Oh
that's
yeah,
probably
but that
probably
was
step.
okay. So someone is transitioning from financial consulting in audit and internal control to actuarial science. Would you relate those two, and do they have anything in common?
I would relate them in the sense of we definitely have financial auditors that audit our work. So I don't know. I guess it depends on probably what career or what industry specifically you worked in for financial auditing. But yes, we have financial auditors that audit our work. Um, so I guess in terms of what you actually audit day in and day out, I don't know. But obviously, if you're auditing actuarial work, then you're very applicable.
Um, this is a question that I haven't thought of before, so it's the last one on the Q&A. What are some common job titles for entry-level roles? They seem to vary wildly in different searches.
I do, and that was one thing that was always confusing to me too. Um, yeah. How did I do that back in the day? I think a lot of it, honestly, is you have to just sift through them and read the descriptions because you're right. If you're just going off based off of titles, some titles, like at our company, everyone is called an associate up until you get your ASA or your FSA or things like that. So, but associate, could be an entry level job. It could also be someone with an ASA. So you just have to like read the description on the actual um, job posting, I guess, and see, does it say it's requiring 5 years of actuarial experience? It's probably not entry level. Another thing is if you do find a company that has like an actuarial student program, which that's what I'm talking about, that rotation program that our company has. There are several companies that have that. I know we have it. I think like Lincoln Financial has it. I don't know off the top of my head but there's other companies that have those student programs. A lot of times they will have just a general posting of like, here's a posting for, and that's actually what I ended up applying for too, it wasn't a specific role in the company. It was just, I want an entry level position to the student program. But again, and I forget how they labeled it, but that's basically what it was, like entry level student program, actuarial associate, something along those lines.
I just dropped a link to the SOA's Job Center as well, and it looks like, because I know a couple folks have asked about resumes and stuff, it looks like we at the SOA offer free resume reviews, which is great and something that I did not know about because I'm working with candidates, not early candidates like college students typically. So that's great. That is that last link that I just put in there. But also obviously it's a job board, so there are a bunch of jobs in there for folks if you weren't aware of that. Okay, now I was neglecting looking at the questions and I don't know what to ask next. Okay, here we go. So we had 2 questions in a row actually about if age is a factor. So someone in their 40s, if they're too old to make a change, as well as would you perceive any barriers for an older career changer approaching 50? So folks in their 40s or, who have had more than just 5 years in a previous career. Are they too old? And what are some barriers you might see?
I mean, in my opinion, I wouldn't think you're too old as long as you have to be okay with the fact that and that was even something honestly for me, only being 5 years in my career, I did view it sort of as like a step back in my career in the sense of, here I was, running all my classrooms and I was involved in several things that I was basically running a big chunk of the math department at the college. And then I go to this entry level position where, I'm the grunt workers to some extent, you know what I mean? Like in actuarial grunt work. Um, but for me personally, I didn't mind because it was almost needed because it's such different knowledge, you know what I mean? Like you really need to start from the ground up so that you can understand. And that was something that was kind of interesting to me is, talking to these people that had been in their career, even just 5 years or something like that. Like you pick up so much in the time that you're there. So I guess all that to say, as long as you're okay with kind of taking a step back. Another thing that I struggled with a little bit, but I just kind of had to keep telling myself was the fact of, I'm looking at people that are my age and they're already like AVPs in the company, things like that for people that did go straight out of college. And naturally, if you're 40s and 50s, a lot of your colleagues that are equal to you are going to be the 20s right out of college. So as long as you're aware of that and okay with that, then I don't necessarily see any barriers. The the only thing too, but again, later in life, I feel like it might be easier. I don't know. Again, I'm going back to the kid thing, kids and families. Sometimes it's harder, with kids and families to get through the exam process. But if you're 40s and 50s, and if you have kids and families, maybe they're like older and a little more self-sufficient, that you wouldn't have the same barriers that, or challenges, I should say, that we have with the little kids running around.
The little kids and newborns.
Yes, yes.
So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but Risa said that they changed careers at 48. It's difficult but possible. And Risa, again, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Reach out to me because I would love to schedule one of these with you if you're interested in chatting more. So, but anyways, yes, okay. Here we go. Okay, so I know I just mentioned the resume thing. We have a couple questions about resumes, specifically gaps. So what in general, do you think the actuarial profession would look down on folks having gaps, like completing their actuarial science degrees and then going somewhere else before coming back? that one specifically? And then, okay, does the actuarial industry look at it? How does it look at a few-year gap in career? So gaps in careers from college.
Yeah, it's definitely something that would probably get brought up in an interview, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing as long as, like I said, as long as a lot of what we're looking at when we're interviewing people is your intentions and kind of like where your head's at now. So maybe you had life events going on, maybe you had whatever that caused, or maybe you were interested in something else for a minute that you decided to go do something else. Just explain all that. But we're really more interested in where are you at now. It's like, okay, I went and, took this break, did all this, but now I'm ready to pursue this. I know it's a commitment. I know it takes, extra demands from me. And again, here's the things that's where you may have to make sure you have some extra stuff on your resume, like exams or whatever, to show that you've made the commitment of like, okay, I took a break, but now I've studied for 2 exams and passed them. And I've, attended these sessions, learning sessions of actuarial things, things of that nature. So as long as you're showing that now you're focused, you're in it, and you're on that path, I think that's really more important than the gaps. But just be aware, you will get asked about the gaps probably, and we'll just kind of want to know, what happened. But it's not as important as it is where you're at now.
Thank you. Okay, so this question, it's on the same lines, but and it's the first one in the Q&A box, Brittany. So this person has a mediocre GPA, adequate SQL and Excel skills, and 2 exams passed, and then 2 VEEs. They're having difficulty getting an internship or any entry-level job. Can you think of things that they could add to beef up their resume or include on their resume to make them stand out more as a candidate?
Well, and my first question is, are they even receiving interview opportunities, or are they not even getting that? Because if they are getting interview opportunities and not receiving the internship, then it sounds like it's maybe more like soft skills and interview skills that you might need to work on. But if you're not even getting an interview opportunity, then what else could you add? Like I said, try to attend some virtual sessions. Oh, what was it? There was something this one girl that I interviewed went to. I think it was actually through the CAS. Oh, this is very vague, so I might have to like do some research and get back to y'all so that I'm not just out there. But there was some kind of like, it was almost like a study abroad type program, but I think she was doing it online, of some kind of student program that the CAS was offering. So just any sort of little opportunity like that. I'm sure the SOA has things too of, programs that you can get involved with would probably be helpful. Maybe that technical, like I said, the Infinite Actuary technical skills class, do that. I think they have a student rate of like $80 or something like that. Throw that on your resume as well. And then other than that, I would probably start, like I said, emailing out to people specifically, actuaries specifically, because just the more people that know that you're out there looking, I think the more it's all like timing and finding the right person with the right opportunity. Most people, at least from my experience when I was looking, most people were willing to try to help me, but it's just a matter of not everybody has an opening at that particular point in time or knows somebody with an opening. So it's just kind of like, just keep throwing the fishing line out there until you land on the right person that has an opening, I guess is really a lot of it.
Would you say that LinkedIn can be a valuable way of connecting with folks or finding jobs?
Probably connecting with folks. Honestly, I don't know about a lot. I don't use it LinkedIn a whole lot in terms of, but I do know our company will post on there sometimes when we have job openings available. So yeah, it probably is a good way just to see job openings for sure.
Okay. What do you consider the most difficult exam or requirement along the way to obtaining your ASA?
Hmm. I think that is very person specific, but for me, and the good thing is that they've changed it, so y'all won't have to go through this. It was LTAM, and it was, for me, it was because the structure of that exam was challenging. It was 2 parts. The first half was multiple choice, and the second half was short answer. And you had to have like a minimum score on the multiple choice for them to even look at your short answer stuff. So it was kind of, for me, I had a very hard time doing time management on that exam because you had to spend enough time on the multiple choice to make sure you had that minimum score so that they would get to your short answer. But then obviously you wanted to spend a lot of time on your short answer because that takes longer than multiple choice. So I really struggled with the time management between those two. But they don't do it that way anymore. So that's good. Now it's split into two. I think you either do, or maybe it's all multiple choice now. I honestly don't even know. Once you get past them, you kind of stop paying attention. But I know especially for the entry level, from what I hear, like for me, P was easier to me than FM because I had a math background. But I have also heard from a lot of people, they think FM is easier than P, but those are usually people that don't have a math background. So I think a lot of it too is like depends on your background and what you already know.
Thank you. Okay, in terms of career advancement, what can one expect when changing careers from the entry-level actuarial analyst to an actual actuary level? About how long does that take?
Career advancement. A lot of it depends on you and how fast you want to move through the exams. A lot of career advancement, at least at our company, is a little bit dictated by how many exams you have passed. Like for us, I got promoted when I received my ASA. So that the length of time it took me to get there was how long it took me to do my ASA, which is on me, So and when you say actually an actuary level, I guess that depends on if you're talking about an ASA or an FSA. But again, I think it really depends because I consider an ASA an actuary level, even though it's not, the top level. So it really just depends on how fast you move through exams. I feel like me personally, I was kind of average. Like I wasn't super fast, but I also wasn't super slow. So, for me, like I said, once I started working as an actuary, it was 5 years till I had my ASA. But I know other people that have come in and rocked it within like 2 or 3. So it's doable. And other people that have taken, 10 to 12. So it's really up to you and how fast you want to go through your exams.
Set your own pace.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see resumes of folks who only have passed one exam? And should folks who have only passed one exam apply to entry-level jobs?
Um, It doesn't hurt to apply. I will say I help a lot more with the internship program. And so in interns, a lot of them only have one exam passed, if any exams pass at all. Sometimes our interns do not have exams passed. But again, I will say for someone, if we take an intern with no exams, it's usually because they've come from an actuarial school background. So that's it's like you got to have something to put on your exam or on your resume. So if you don't have the actuarial school background, then you probably need at least one exam for an internship. You could try applying to entry level with only one, but I know for me personally, I think I tried and I got basically no responses when I only had one exam. By the time I had the second exam, and I think at that point I had attended one conference too. So I had enough on my resume that I think it kind of caught people's attention at that point. So I'd say try. It can't hurt to try, but maybe go for the second exam before
Manage
you like
expectations, yeah.
Yeah. Or go for an internship, one of the two.
Yes. Okay, what are some common interview questions in an entry-level actuary job interview?
It a little bit probably depends on who you're talking to. So I know when you're talking to more managers or upper level FSA actuaries, they do, because the way we do our interviews is there's 2 of us in there together. They'll usually get someone who is a full FSA, and then they'll get one of us who's still in the student program to team up together. So in our interviews, I know the FSA usually asks a lot more of the skills questions in terms of it, especially, and maybe this isn't applicable if you don't have actuarial background, but if you did have actuarial background, then they'll ask a lot more of like your skills on actuarial things that you've worked on before. For career changers, they'll probably still ask you, like I said, something technical about what you did previously. And then I know for us, a lot of it is even us trying to, like I said, trying to assess how serious are you about coming to the actuarial profession, because as I mentioned, companies pay for exams and for study materials. So it's an investment on our side to decide to hire you and take you on, because, we're putting a lot of resources and money into developing you as an actuary. So before we make that commitment, we want to make sure that like you're really serious about doing this and you're not just like, oh, let me try this. This might be fun. Because obviously, you know, if we put a bunch of money into you to do your exams and you only work for us with like, you know, 6 months or something, then well, that was a waste of money for us. So it's a lot of like just trying to determine, are you serious about this? And then a lot of that will be, you know, asking about, uh, you know, exams. How many have you taken? What are your plans for exams? You know, are you aware of all the requirements of you? A lot of it too is also a little bit like company culture. Like we want to know that you would get along with the people that we work with. We want to know that you're a good communicator, like I said, because at least our company in particular, you are not really able to work in a bubble. You have to talk to other people. And so we want to see that you're able to do that. What other questions do we ask? I'm trying to think. And again, I'm trying to get out of the intern mode because I do more intern interviews than anything. I think those are the big ones. And then obviously, you know, we want to know, it's mainly your focus, your commitment. Are you really committed to this career? Is this something you're really looking to do?
Okay, so just on internships, are there any part-time internship opportunities for people who work full-time jobs? Have you run into that?
I don't know about it. Other companies. I would hate to say no, there's not, because I feel like that's so company specific. You know, there may be opportunities out there. The way our personal internship program works is, and again, because it's geared for college students, is it's, you know, 3 months over the summer. But that's not to say that we wouldn't consider someone who wasn't a college student. To my knowledge, we haven't done that in the past. But again, it could just be because we haven't had the right opportunity. Like, you never know. And again, that's probably very company specific. So for us, it would be 3 months in the summer. And I think it would be expected that you work the full 35-hour work week. However, I will say our company is pretty open in terms of hours that you work. So there's maybe potential you could talk to your manager and, you know, see if you only worked maybe like 3 or 4 hours at one point and then did the rest after your other job, or, you know, it's honestly, it's just finding the right opportunity and talking to people. I personally don't know of actual part-time internships, but that's not to say, you know, if you find the right opportunity, you couldn't just communicate your needs, I guess.
We are just about at time, so we have a couple more questions in here. Brittany, why don't you go ahead and put your email address in the chat? Let's see. Okay. So knowing what you know, this is a great way to wrap up, actually. So folks, there are a couple unanswered questions, but these are more specific. So if you want to reach out to Brittany, you can. But knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently along your journey?
I don't think so, honestly. Except maybe do some exams a little faster.
Awesome.
I feel pretty good about the route that I've taken in
Awesome. Brittany, Zoom is so stupid sometimes, but you only sent your email to me, so I just posted there for everyone. Everyone, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming today. This will be available as a on our YouTube early next week. If you're an affiliate member, you'll be able to access that. And we have our next session is next month, and it is Ask an Almost ASA. So again, if you're working on those exams, that might be a great one for y'all to come to. Thank you again so much, Brittany. We really appreciate it. And everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.